Hello creative minds, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, you're welcome. And in today's project I'm going to be sharing with you how I came about this beautiful dress with a strap and a structured design. Like you see here, this structured design is actually the highlight of this dress, and I decided to make a video to share with you as it might be helpful to someone out there. If this looks like what you're interested in, then do well to stick with me. Let's get right into this video. So I used a plain fabric for this project. You can use any fabric of your choice, depends on you. So I used about I have about 4 yards here. So first I'm going to be mapping out for the front pattern. So I'm going to be taking out, there's going to be a strap. So for my strap I'm going to be using about 8 inches. So I'm going to begin my measurement from 8 inches, just like you see me do here. So from that 8 inches I went ahead to impute my gown length, and after doing that I drew a straight line across, just like I did. So from that 8 inches I'm going to map out my bust point, my under bust, and my waistline, and also my hip line. Then I'm going to go ahead and connect all these lines with a straight line, like I'm doing here. So this is not so fitted gown, although I'm going to be adding 1 inches for ease. It's going to be a short mini dress, but I'll be adding about half an inch for ease. Yes, I added half an inch for ease for this dress all the way. So for instance, if my round bust is 10, I'm going to be mapping out 10.5 inches. I hope you understand. So I'll say it again. So for instance, if my round bust divided by 4 is 10 inches, I'm going to be mapping out 10.5 inches. So what I have at my hip point is what I'm going to be imputing at my gown length, because this is not so fitted dress, like I said earlier. So for instance, if at my hip point I have about 11 inches, for my gown length I'm going to be imputing that 11 inches. So I'm going to be including a bust dart to it. So the difference between the front and the back is 1 inch. So I'm going to be mapping that 1 inches. That's where I'm going to be um, imputing my bust dart. So that's basically all for the drafting of the front piece. I'm going to be including about half an inch for 1 inches, sorry, for my allowances. And I'm also going to be mapping my nipple to nipple measurements when we are sewing, because that's where I'm going to be including the strap for this dress. So now I'm going to just go ahead and cut out. Then I'm going to be imputing my 1 inch all the way for my joining allowance. Then I'm also going to be cutting and interfacing for the front piece and also the back piece. So you can go ahead and use a lining for yours, but I'm going to be using an interfacing for this dress. So I'm just going to notch where my dart is going to be, so that when I'm stitching I know where I'm going to begin the stitch from. So for the back pattern I'm going to be including a zipper. So I just went ahead to take out about ½ inch at that point, then I connected it with a slanted line all the way to the top and all the way to the down parts. This is just to help take out any gaping on this dress, and I'm just going to simply cut out for the back piece, and that's basically all for the cutting of the front and back. I'm going to be using the same 1 inches for my stitching allowance, and I'm going to cut out the back just like I'm doing here. So that's it for the cutting. It's not so difficult. It's a strapless dress. So next I'm just going to go ahead and notch where my zip is going to begin from, and I'm also going to be notching the down part as well. So remember, for when I began the measurements, I took out 8 inches. So that means my strap should be about 16 inches long. So I'm just going to be measuring it, which is about this. I have about 17 inches long here. So for the strap, I want it to be about 2 inches. I don't want it too wide. So it depends on how wide or how thin you want the strap of this dress to be. If you want it thinner than mine, you should do approximately 1 inches. So here I did 2 inches, and I'm going to go ahead and fold it all the way to the other side. So I just quickly want to explain how I want my structure to be. So I'm just going to be folding my fabric into two. So this is depends, this structure depends on you. There's no particular way you should do it. So you can just like go with your instincts or anyhow you want your structure to be. So this is how I'm going to be cutting mine. Then I'm going to cut it with a curve at that down part. Then I'm going to be folding the edges, like I'm going to be just giving it a fold. So you can do it in a straight form, and you can do it in a curvy form. So I'm just going to cut out that part, and that's how the down part will be. So that down part is going to sit at our waist point, and the structure is going to be this way. So for the structure, I wanted it a little bit above the bust area to just create that statement. So you can go ahead and cut out any design for your structure. Depends, totally depends on you. There's no particular way it must be. So now we're going to work on the fabric. So but before then, I'm going to be imputing my strap. So I've gone ahead to stitch my strap in place, and I gave it a good press. So remember I told you that I'm going to be cutting and interfacing for the front and the back piece. So I've gone ahead to do that. So next I'm going to go ahead and first fix my zipper on the back piece. So I'm just going to mark out where I want my zipper to stop, and after marking that out, I'm going to be closing this all the way to the down part. I'm not going to be including a slit to this dress because it's already going to be free at the down parts. So next now is to go ahead and close up with interfacing. But before that, for my zipper point, I went ahead to map out my nipple to nipple measurements like I'm doing here. So that's it's going to serve as a guide for us to impute our strap. So for my interfacing, I'm going to be fixing it, and as I'm fixing it, I'll just place my strap on it before I go ahead and stitch my interfacing, just like I'm doing here. So I'll stitch it straight down and all the way to the other side. So I'll do the same for the other side of our dress. I'll place my strap and I'll stitch it. So this was after I was done stitching it. I'll go ahead and take out any excess that I might have, cut out all the threads, then I'll open it just like I'm doing here, and this is how it should look like. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and give it a good press after this. You can see how beautiful the back came out. So yours should be neater than this. So for the front piece, I'll go ahead and open it up, and I'll also, before I open it, I'll go ahead and stitch my bust dart in place. And after stitching my bust dart in place, I'll also go ahead and map out my nipple to nipple measurement. I'll fix my strap the way I did for the back. So I'll just go ahead and just map it out on the other side so as to be sure of how I want it to be. So I'll go ahead and do this, and I'll go ahead and turn my interfacing. So I left a little bit of space for the strap. I didn't fix it yet, so I'll just go ahead and fix it now. So I'll just put it in to that 1 inches that I left. Then I'll go ahead and pin it and I'll stitch it in place. So after stitching it, now we're going to work on our structure. Like I said earlier, I'm going to be having my fabric unfold off to, just like I demonstrated with that paper at the beginning. So I've gone ahead to fold mine in two. So I'm just going to go ahead and create how I want the shape I want my structure to be. Like I said earlier, there's no particular way it should be. Like you can just do what how you want yours to be. So this is how I want mine to be. I just want it in a not so circular form. I just want it in a very round form. So I'm just going to be cutting it. You can see that I'm also doing some alteration on the lines I drew. So I'm just going to go ahead and have mine in a not so circular form, just something round to give that beautiful structure. So I'm going to be using a heart stay on one side. So the heart stay is going to be on the lining parts. Okay, so this is a heart stay. I'm going to be cutting it just to give it a structure. So after cutting it out, this is going to help give it a very good structured look, because we are cutting it round. And you can decide to use any stay of your choice, but I think this hard one will give you that structure that you need. So after sewing it round, I'm just going to go ahead and give it a good notch, make all the adjustments I need to make, give it a good notch, because we are going to be turning this over to the other side. So after giving it a good notch, that part I didn't sew it in. I left it to be able to turn this out. So after turning it out, the next thing is to go ahead and give it a good press. So by the time you give it a good press, you see that our structure is already in place. Then that's points, I'm going to go ahead and pleat my structure to my dress. So if you have a mannequin, it's going to help, because you can also just place your dress on your mannequin and you can go ahead and pleat this structure on it. At this point, just go ahead and pleat the way you want it to be. You can even decide to make it like a bow form. So right now I'm just going to be using my pressing iron to give it a good press, and I'm going to go ahead and pleat it to the areas I want pleated. So at this point, you can go ahead and also include a hemming gum, which was, to me at some point, was actually not necessary, because the beauty of this pleat was the openness, like how open that point should be. So but then again, you can go ahead and use a hemming gum to just put that pleat in place, so that when you are stitching on your dress, it will be very easy for you, because I'm going to be using my thread and needle to tack it in place. So just ensure that you are using a steam iron that will help you melt the hemming gum properly. So this part is should not be rushed. I took my time in pleating this part, because if these pleats do not come out so well, the dress might also not be so giving. So just go ahead and pleat. If you feel it's not giving, you can go ahead and make adjustments. I made a lot of adjustments on it, on how I wanted it to form, and I made sure that the pleats were properly in place. You can see how beautiful it already came out. So this is what it looks like by the time I was done. So next now is to bring my front piece. I'm going to be measuring. I want this design to begin from my waistline, so I'm just going to measure my waistline and just map it. So after mapping my waistline, I'll just place it on it, just give it a map, then place it on it to see how it's going to be looking like. So at this point, like I said, you can place on your mannequin or whoever is wearing the dress, and you can wear this dress on the person, then go ahead and pin the necessary parts you need pinned. So I'm just going to be pinning them in place to be certain that's how I want it. Although I made some changes, I turned it over later on. So the next step now is to go ahead and close up our dress. I'm going to be closing up the sides of my dress, ensuring that all the measurements are in place, my waist, my bust point and my hip point. Then I'll go ahead and close up the sides of my dress and also the hemline of the dress. So for the interfacing, I'm going to neatly close it up using the hemming gum, and voila, our dress is ready. So this dress can be worn even without the structured design, guys. So depends on how you want to wear this dress. So basically that's all, and I'll just go ahead and use my needle and thread to tack my design in place, and that's how it's looking like. I hope you learned one or two from this video. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Bye.